Now, you might have been hearing a lot about stagflation, but what does it all mean? And joining us to help us break it all down is Mark Wild from MW Wealth. Mate, what are the key indicators of stagflation in the current economy? It doesn't sound like a fun time.
Well, no, it's the worst of all worlds. But let's go a little bit retrospective to put this all into context. So remember COVID, that thing that happened?
Vaguely, yeah.
2021. So the government's fiscal and monetary response created a really soft business environment. So with what they pumped through the system and the stimulus, anything with a heartbeat just appreciated from that point. So life isn't like that. Life's tough. Perhaps we should have endured it a little bit more without giving the economy so much. And if you look at what's happened, things were rampant since 2021, and that's the context behind what we're experiencing right now. So
it's a bit of a hangover, if you will, of those last 4 years or 3 years.
Well, I was listening to a conference, or heard about a conference with the JP Morgan CEO, and he said, we're about to enter the worst economic environment we can experience, which is stagflation. And so that was really evidenced on Wednesday when we had really hot inflation data. So what that meant, is that interest rates around the world were all anticipating a cut. It probably won't happen because we're entering a period of stagflation. So as I said, stagflation, the worst of everything with the economy. So it's not going to be a fun time in 2024.
Okay, so how does stagflation differ from traditional inflationatory or recessionatory periods that we've seen?
Yeah, we'll get this right. Low unemployment, low growth. So we're not growing. But even though we're not growing, inflation's still growing. So inflation's still persistent. So it's really putting the economy in a back foot, and it's really unknown. And the share market doesn't like that uncertainty, hence why it's really retracting at the moment. So with people's investment portfolios or their superannuation, it's probably a time not to be so passive. I mean, obviously there's a huge wave of passive investment in Australia, but I would say it's a time to get active because you need specific stocks that are going to perform through stagflation.
But aren't people going to be a little more on edge, a bit more nervous about making those, active moves that you're talking about? Do you think?
Yeah, of course. Yep. So that's what happens. People withdraw money from the stock market and things go back naturally from there. But I mean, you've got a superannuation balance. You need to keep it invested. So a lot of people's super balances are going to get hurt if they just remain too passive. So you really need to select money managers that know how to select stocks that will come out stronger from stagflation.
Yeah, and for those out there who are on the apps, you can actually go into your super applications
and see what you're holding,
and actually take a look at it and navigate it to share so it works for you, right? That's all.
Absolutely. So, my superannuation fund, or the money that I've invested outside of super. So I really want to hold money managers that are really active in selecting companies that will likely outperform during stagflation. And, me saying this, of course, this is general advice, but if you're holding companies like Goodman Group and Hardings, so they're portfolio darlings, and with their foray into AI centers, they're pleasing the tech world, so they're likely going to continue to do quite well. Mineral Resources, another stock which I think will do quite well through stagflation, because iron ore is in such demand and it's so undervalued, so it will probably continue to go up. As I said, it's general advice, but those sort of that active management and holding those companies, not just plain ETFs, may be better suited to this type of environment.
Something a little bit more substantial, like you're talking to the tech world with Silicon Valley, etc. There's
just companies that have a high barriers to entry, high moats, there's high demand for their product, and are likely going to continue to sell because the world needs it throughout difficult times.
So what policy measures do you think governments can take to combat stagflation if we turn our attention to those guys?
Well, I mean, what do? They increase rates, they're going to slow down the economy even more. They decrease
so little,
rate.
It feels like there's so little they can do every move they make.
Which is what the JP Morgan CEO said the other day. It's a really difficult economy, and probably the answer to your question is that we might be in for some tough times. We might be in for some high unemployment, slow growth, low spending. Businesses might fail. So unfortunately, that's the dire situation.
On the flip side of COVID. Well, thank you so much for bringing us such bright, optimistic news, Mark.
As always.
Hopefully we'll unpack it and have something a little more optimistic to look at next week.
Potentially.